the biggest entrepreneur platform on the planet. This is Business Rockstars.
This is Business Rockstars. I'm Brittany Lehman. My guest today is Alli Webb, New York Times bestselling author, entrepreneur, and founder of DryBar. Alli, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
So for those who are not familiar with DryBar, can you give the quick elevator pitch?
Sure. So DryBar is a blow dry bar only. So no cuts, no color. All we do are blowouts. We have 105 locations currently. We started about 8+ years ago. And so yeah, you just walk in, we wash your hair, we blow it out, make you feel like a supermodel, and then you're out the door. No fuss, no muss, no cuts, no pressure to get color, anything like that. So yeah, it's grown into quite the business over the last couple of years.
I love it. And you're a pioneer in the beauty industry. You're the founder of a $100 million empire. But I kind of want to go back to the early days before you started DryBar. What was your inspiration to start?
Well, I grew up in South Florida, where if you've ever spent time in South Florida, you know it's very humid, and so my naturally curly hair was always pretty big, and I didn't like it. I hated it as a kid, and I was always so curious and perplexed, like how, the supermodels of my time, like Christy Brinkley and Cindy Crawford, like they had this like bouncy, shiny hair. And I was like, how do they get that? And my hair is like crazy, curly, frizzy, and always, unruly. And I used to like beg my mom to blow out my hair. Long story short, it was just like a seed that was always planted in me about hair. And, after high school, trying to figure out what I wanted to do, I just couldn't find my way. And I tried a lot of other things and finally went to beauty school in my early 20s, which was like where I feel like I found my people and I loved it. And then, spent the next like 10, 15 years working in hair salons and learning how to perfect other people's blowouts as well as my own, and learning how to do my hair was like the big goal.
Yeah.
But anyways, fast forward to, working in salons, finding my husband, getting married. I had 2 kids. We were living in New York City at the time, but we moved to LA, and I was a stay-at-home mom and thought that was going to be it. And I loved being home with my boys. And after 5 years of being home with my boys, I was like, I need to start talking to adults again. I just felt like the itch to do something for myself. And my parents had their own business growing up, so I have that entrepreneurial blood. And so I actually started a mobile blow dry business in about 2007, 2008. And I was basically going to women's home, my mommy friends, really. I was like, I'll come over when your baby sleeps. And I started this little business. I posted it on a mommy blog that I was on and said it was called Straight at Home. Mm-hmm. And I started going to women's homes and blow drying their hair while their baby was sleeping. I was only charging $40. So during that time, I realized that there was really nowhere for these clients that I was doing and only charging $40 to go for a great blowout. There was the discount chains, and there was the full service salons where they were overcharging. And so I just felt like there was no place like DryBar, and there was this massive hole in the market. And that's when I went to my brother, Michael Landau, and my husband, Cameron Webb, who are my business partners and are both bald, by the way, have no business in the hair world. But I went to them and I was like, I think I should turn my mobile business into a brick and mortar. And that's when we started talking about turning Straight at Home, which is my mobile business, into an actual location where instead of me going to my clients, they could come to me. And it was in the middle of a recession when we started the business, but I just felt like, at this price point in a beautiful space where it's just this very one focused thing that I had dreamt up my whole life, that certainly at least the women who I was already servicing in my mobile business would surely love it. And every woman I talked to about it was like, oh my God, that's the best idea ever. You have to do it. Yeah. So that's kind of how it all started. And none of us had, my brother Michael was running a real estate marketing company of his own at the time. My husband Cameron was the creative director at an advertising agency. None of us expected it to take off the way it did. It was going to be my job, my livelihood. I would, run the shop during the day and then pick up my kids after school. And we severely underestimated the demand that this, would bring. And so that was 8+ years ago.
And I love the story of the first day. So your first location's in Brentwood. Right. And the first day you opened, you said, you could walk in if you want. Yeah. You had a line out the door. Tell me about that day.
Well, we didn't know what to expect at all from this business. And, in 2010, when we first opened, we were all using BlackBerrys back then, but, we were all doing stuff online, and you could book appointments online. And I remember Daily Candy, which of course you remember, had run an article, this pithy little thing, and Daily Candy always like broke the new cool stories, and they had run a little piece on DryBar opening, and we started, all of a sudden we were like sitting at lunch and got like all these notifications of people booking online for like the first week, and we were like, we thought there was like a system error in our booking system, because we're like, where are all these appointments coming from? And the Daily Candy thing had just run. But I think in that moment, and that was before we even opened the doors, in that moment we were like, okay, I think people are going to book online, but we didn't know. You know, we didn't know if it was going to be like the kind of thing you walk by or you book online. And I should have known better that, like, as women, we're very like, we know we're planners and we plan out our day. And so that's what women were doing. They were like, I'm going to get an 8 o'clock blowout and then go to, you know, work or lunch or whatever they're going to do. So on that first day, we did have on all our collateral, on the window, on our business cards, on everything, it said Poppins welcome. And women were coming in, and they're like, and it was so busy. I think I only had like 6 stylists on that first day, because I didn't know really what to expect. And we were hoping to do like 30 or 40 blowouts a day in those early days, which very quickly would turn to like 100 blowouts a day. But so women were walking in, and they're like, you said you can walk in. And I was like, I know, but there's like no chairs, there's no stylists. Like, I mean, we used to bring out stools and do people like in the little hallway, because I didn't want to say no to anybody. But like, and I was doing blowout after blowout after blowout in the first chair, so I could keep an eye on the front desk and manage the madness that was happening, because I didn't even hire a manager, because I thought I would just do everything, and which I did for like 6 months. I did every single job. But yeah, we so underestimated the demand, and and women were getting mad. I had to like, my brother and I would chase women out the door, being like, I'm so sorry, like we couldn't get you in, and we'd give them a free blowout, and we were like, you know, please come back. But we very quickly realized that this business was going to be much more appointment based, and we do take walk-ins, and we do our very best to take walk-ins, but it, you know, Thursday through Saturday, like it's pretty crazy in there.
And you didn't have a business plan, did you?
No, I mean, there was, you know, when I started talking to my brother about this idea, he started putting like spreadsheets together and figuring out like how much money we needed and all of that. So thank God for him. But, you know, I was just very focused on like the in-store experience and how you were going to, you know, treat customers. And that also largely came from my parents' business. They had clothing shops in South Florida, but they were like, customer service was like their biggest thing, and they bent over backwards for clients. And we grew up with that mentality. So that was something that was always near and dear to my heart, that like you have to treat the customer's king. You have to treat everybody like your best friend or your mother. And so we, you know, that was where my focus was. And luckily, Michael was really focusing on finding us more leases and, you know, figuring out the numbers and how to make the whole thing work. But there was never really much of a business plan, because it was only supposed to be one little shop in Brentwood. And who knew it would turn into 100 shops.
Massive.
Yeah.
And as you said, a lot of people don't know it's a family-run business. Yeah. What are some of the successes and challenges, or the highs and the lows?
Yeah, and there definitely are both. I mean, the great part about working with family, assuming you like them, is that it's like my brother and I get to like, you know, we went through my brother and I have always been really close. And then when we went our separate ways and like pursuing our lives and getting married and all the things that you do, we didn't like see each other and hang out as much anymore, because everybody's, you know, so busy. But when we came back together to do DryBar, you know, it gave us an excuse to like be together all the time. And so we're much closer. And there's just an innate trust that you have with family, that, you know, the things that like I didn't understand, and things like I could ask my brother to explain to me that, you know, I may have felt stupid asking anybody else. So there's that part of it that's so great. You know, on the flip side, it's your family, and you don't always like give them the like courtesy of like respect that you give people you work with, that you're not gonna like say mean things to them. Not that we say mean things to each other, but you just don't have that shield that you have with the rest of the world, the filter. And so that leads to trouble sometimes. Although I have to say, we have a good working relationship, because we all have such different strengths and weaknesses. Like for me, obviously it's like hair, the customer experience in the store. For Michael, it was like the business side of things and figuring out numbers and raising money and all of that. And Cameron, my husband, you know, is the creative mastermind, and we all defer to each other on those things. So it's not like we're competing against each other. There's a lot of bouncing things off each other, and if we ever don't agree, you know, the ultimate decision goes to the person that's area that is. So it really works for us. I could see how it doesn't work for most people because it's like hard sometimes to work with family. But, you know, on the flip side, I worked with my best friend in a business and we just didn't get along in that particular environment. We're still best friends, but working together wasn't the thing. So you just have to find the right people.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, don't go anywhere. We will be right back. This is my wonderful guest, Alli Webb, entrepreneur, New York Times bestselling author, and founder of DryBar. This is Business Rockstars. I'm Brittany Lehman. We are back with Alli Webb, entrepreneur, New York Times bestselling author, and founder of DryBar. Alli, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
So not only are you the founder of DryBar, but you also have a new podcast out that you're doing with your brother called Raising the Bar.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about that.
So, you know, over the years in building DryBar, we've been asked and approached by people from all over the place about, you know, starting their own business, raising money, branding, all of the stuff that we've done. And we've kind of felt like we wanted to give back and, you know, spread the love and give advice wherever we can, but, you know, don't have 15 minutes to have coffee with everybody who asks. And, but, you know, so many people helped us along the way. And it's really overwhelming when you're starting a business and there's things that you just don't know and things you don't know. So I was, you know, just in the whole podcast craze and feeling like a podcast felt like such a great way to not only like give advice out and talk to other entrepreneurs about their struggles and the things that they're experiencing in everyday work life, but also, you know, my brother Michael and I have a really funny kind of banter and shtick and as brother and sister. And so it's kind of fun to capture that. And then part of the podcast is not only talking to other entrepreneurs, but also I elicit like questions from my like Instagram following and I ask people to DM me a question that they're curious about. And then Michael and I will talk about it on our show and kind of give our points of view and our background. And it's really fun. And we could not be more different, my brother and I. So we see the world very differently. We disagree on a lot of things about business and life. And so it's all kind of captured within the podcast. And, you know, our goal is to keep it very like light and fun and you know, informative. And I've already gotten so much great feedback, which is the best, that people are learning things from it and they're getting, you know, little tips and tricks and things that they can like apply to their own business and struggles they're having. So yeah, we just recently launched it and it's been a lot of fun.
Great. And you're also a big supporter of women-led businesses.
Yes.
What advice do you have for female entrepreneurs who are kind of breaking into an unknown space like you did?
Yeah, well, I mean, I feel like it's a great time for women-owned businesses. I feel like I know so many personally, you know, so many women who are starting their own businesses. And I think it's like, you know, just it's so basic, but like having the same level of confidence as a man and, you know, and not feeling like your opinion is any less important, what you have to say is any less important. I think for me, it took me some time and some years, especially, you know, even within DryBar, we have some amazing, our private equity guys are great from Castanea, but it's mostly men. Right. And I think it took me a minute to get like my footing and not be afraid to speak up for the things that I felt strongly about or things that I felt were important. You know, and getting more comfortable flexing that muscle. So right. I urge women out there to like not be afraid to like speak your mind and, you know, and I think you need to back it up with like knowing what you're talking about, but not being afraid to really like put it out there and you're just as smart as anybody else in the room. So I think it's like finding that inner confidence to really speak up and not be afraid to risk a little, you know, right. and put it out there.
And if you had to give 3 pieces of advice to an aspiring entrepreneur or business owner, what would those top 3 pieces of advice be?
Surround yourself with really smart people who know things that you don't. You know, I feel like I was incredibly lucky to partner up with my brother who had this great business sense about him and my husband who had, you know, this design pedigree. And, you know, we always say if it was just me and Cameron and not Michael, like there'd probably only be 3 DryBars because like real estate deals and all that stuff that, you know, not only am I not great at, but I'm not that interested in. So recognizing the things that you need help in, I think is a really good piece of advice that, you know, a lot of entrepreneurs kind of think they can do everything themselves and it's hard. It's so much work, you know. I'd say also have a good support system around you. You know, it's like, it may not be like the first thing you think about, but, you know, if you have a family, kids, husband, like you need to have a very like come to Jesus conversation with those people about like how much time is going to go into this and it's like it never shuts off. So when you have a job and it's the weekend, you don't think about your job anymore when you're working for somebody else. But when you're working for yourself, it never shuts off. And I think not everybody has like that tolerance and is okay with that level of demand on your life. So you know, I feel like having the people around you who are like, even my kids like get it, you know, and then there's a lot of conversations I think that need to happen. Right. You know, and then I would say like, a little bit more like cliche, but like be really passionate and love what you're doing. You know, we've seen people who've copied what we're doing because it's an opportunistic thing, and it's like, oh, you throw in some salon chairs and you hire some stylists, and boom, you have a DryBar. You know, and I know it's not that easy. You know, where you're just dying to open your own business. Whereas if you're doing something that you really feel genuinely passionate about, and it's not like money is your driving factor. You're really genuinely passionate about this. I think that's what you need to like get through all the stuff that you need to get through to make it work, because it's a lot. It's so much harder than anybody ever tells you, you know, and you have to really be 100% committed.
Well, you're so inspirational. Where can people listen to your podcast and hear more from you?
So you can listen to it like on iTunes, really wherever you get your podcast. It's called Raising the Bar with Alli and Michael. There's a link in my profile on my Instagram, which is Alli Webb, and we're really excited about it. And so far, so good. People are seeming to like it.
I love it. It's great.
Thank you.
Alli, thank you so much for joining us today. This was my wonderful guest, Alli Webb, entrepreneur, New York Times bestselling author, and founder of DryBar.